There's no time. It's coming. It's coming here. What's coming, you might ask? I will tell you. The rivers of poo. Rivers of actual poo are coming. Run. Don't walk from the rivers of poo. Get away from the poo. Flee from the poo while you can. Rivers of poo. Welcome to the world of histrionics. Incredible tales from before the now. My name is Professor Robert Angus Smith. I was born in Scotland, I got a degree and a PhD, and in 1841 I moved to Manchester, where I became an analytical chemist and was soon known as the grandfather of acid rain, because I was one of the first people to look into air pollution and its effects on making people sick. Now, people have thought that bad air made people ill for a very long time. People in the Great Plagues, the Black and the Grey Death, thought that it was the responsibility of the bad air that made people ill. And even people in ancient Rome in the time of Julius Caesar knew things about bad air too. But in Victorian times, when I was alive, we called it miasma. Not my asthma, no. Miasma was a name for bad air. Germs thick in the air in a floating miasma that would go around and make people violently ill. I do not remember eating that. The miasma would make people very, very sick indeed. I was one of the first people to suggest it might actually be from factories, it might actually be from industry, and often those factories and people were taken to court. Analytical chemists like me would go in and give advice. But a lot of them were naughty. They were given money, cash, sweet, sweet cash, to tell fibs. Little white lies about how bad the pollution was, and people would get away with it. I was astounded. And you know, the country was about to be astounded thanks to something known as the Great Stink of 1858. You see, London, during the 1700s, had had a few sewers built to try and cope with the sheer vast amount of rubbish, filth and poo created by all the people that lived in the nation's capital. They had around 300 sewers and about 200,000 cesspits. Now, a cesspit is a great big hole in the ground that you fill with rubbish, mostly wee and poo. The cesspits used to leak gas like methane, which is explosive. And sometimes these cesspits used to blow up, killing some people, wounding others, and showering everybody else with a great deal of poo. Oh, it's very rainy out today, dear. I think I'll put an umbrella up. I didn't want to be showered in that. Oh, God. Quite disturbing, I'm sure you'll agree. Not only that, but a great and horrible disease was soon to come to London. A great horrible disease that killed loads of people and made everyone very scared. I speak, of course, of cholera. In 1831, it killed around about 7,000 people. Again, in 1848, it killed 14,000 people in a second wave. The government had no idea what was causing it. The government generally didn't do anything at all, apart from tell everyone it would soon go away, and it did not. People said it was the miasma, that it was the bad air, and they'd walk around with handkerchiefs or their hands over their mouths. Well, but it didn't work, because it wasn't the bad air really at all. Oh no. A scientist by the name of John Snow published a paper saying, actually, I think you'll find it's nothing to do with the air, it's the water. I have done studies and found that most people who die from it are close to water pumps. I'm telling you, it's the water. But nobody listened to him. No, nobody believed him. They thought John Snow knew nothing. But he did. There was a third outbreak of cholera. A third. This one killed around 10,000 people in 1853. And this time, John Snow said, I have a plan. And I walked over to a water pump. I grabbed the handle of the water pump and broke it. He took it off so the pump couldn't be used. It was on a street in Soho, and suspiciously, the people that lived on that street did not become as ill as everywhere else. Now the government was taking him seriously. They removed the pump and dug up the road, and underneath, they found that sewage had leaked into the water supply. That's right, some people were drinking poo water. Oh, I do remember eating that. It was lovely. So, what to do. What to do about this water. What to do about the pollution. What to do about the sewage. We were just dumping all of our rubbish and our filth and our gunge and our slime and our poo and our way into the rivers. The sewages could not cope, that we just didn't know what to do. So the government asked a man called Joseph Bazalgette to have a look at things. He took quite a long time to have a look at things, and while he was doing that, there was a power change. A different government came in and waited even longer. When the government was asked what they were going to do about all of the slime and the pollution in the water, especially in the River Thames, which was now nicknamed Monster Soup because all of the horrible germs in the water, the government said,
"It is not the job nor the responsibility of Her Majesty's government to legislate the Thames. We are not responsible for nature."
Oh yes, I'm sure they thought it was rather funny, but people were getting sicker and sicker and sicker and becoming more and more and more ill. And the smell from the Thames were disgusting. Now, you know I said that cholera was not caused by the miasma, but by, of course, really bad water. Well, the Thames was bad water, but it was also causing a miasma, a great fog, a stink above the river that was making people sick. And in 1858, the temperature got up to 113 degrees Fahrenheit, 42 Celsius. A great horrible summer where it hadn't rained for a very long time. It was incredibly distressing. And not just for me, being from Scotland and then living in Manchester and going to London and seeing the sun out that much. What on earth is going on? Oh no, because the river sank. The water got lower and lower, the hotter and hotter it got, and the more and more of a dry spell we had with no rain. And you could now see on the banks of the Thames all of the rubbish, all of the filth, all of the poo, rivers of poo. It was absolutely outrageous. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert decided in the summer of 1858 to go for a pleasure cruise and returned within minutes because it was so stinky. "We are not amused by the poo," I bet she said. The Houses of Parliament then started to take it seriously when the stink became so bad that the government couldn't do their business. Pardon accepted there. The business they were trying to do, of course, was not poo, but the business of running the country. But the stink was so bad they had to paint the curtains with lime. They started to dump lime into the Thames and carbolic acid as well, but it didn't work. Still, the stink was incredibly bad. The Prime Minister, Disraeli, was seen running out of a meeting room with one hand over his nose and the other clutching his papers to himself because the smell was so bad I couldn't have my meeting. He was zooming right out of that meeting, running very fast indeed. What to do? Now the smell was so bad that the papers started to write about it. Charles Dickens started to write about it. The scientist Michael Faraday started to write about it. And loads of pictures appeared of boatmen dressed up like the Grim Reaper, skeletons sailing along old Father Thames, who was depicted as a tramp with a horrible messy beard and covered in dripping effluent and slime. This had to be dealt with. Bazalgette had been looking into improving the sewers, and so he started to do so. He started to look at how a vast, huge, expensive change could happen, and the government agreed to pay for it. And over the next few years, Joseph Bazalgette helped construct a sewerage system that had over 1,200 miles of new sewers, constructed with 318 million bricks, and costing at a bargain price of only £6.5 million. A lot of the main work was completed in 1875, though there were improvements later on in the 19th and in the early 20th century. We also used to have a massive boat called the SS Bazalgette that we loaded all of the poo onto and then sailed the ship right out into the North Sea and just dumped all of the poo over the side. By the way, that continued until 1998. Yes, now thankfully we just incinerate or burn all of our poo away safely. At last, the great stink of 1858 had been sorted out and the sewerage problems for most of London had now been solved. With the installation of treatment works only a few years later, at last we could cope with the rivers of poo and also the bad air pollution and the miasma that it caused. I wonder, now, where you are, you out there, yes, you, in the internet, in the future, is the poo still a problem? Are there rivers of it in London? What about the miasma, the bad air or the pollution in the air itself? Is that still an issue? Does it make people sick? Does it? I wonder, is it still caused by factories? Industry, or maybe, just maybe, some kind of brand new invention, like some kind of, I don't know, a horseless carriage that manages to transport people wherever they want to go on the ground, yes, and maybe you don't need a horse for it, you can go wherever you like, it can play music, maybe some of it has heated seats, and possibly even cup holders. Why? But cup holders for issue. Don't spill your drink when you're going places, and possibly a little voice that speaks to you and tells you where you need to go without needing to look at a map. If you rely on this horseless carriage in the future and it starts making people ill and starts filling up the air with the bad miasma, you might not create a river of poo. You might create an air of poo. Poo air. And what will you do? What will you do to fight it? I wonder if something like cholera happened again, a great and powerful and deadly disease that forced people not to use their horseless carriages, and then the air got better, and you could walk instead, and go exploring, and maybe use one of those bone-shaking velocipedes known as bicycles, or a scooter, or maybe wheels on your feet. Who knows what you could do to go out and exercise and breathe in the brand new air that wasn't poo air. Would you keep it? Would you fight to not so rely on horseless carriages? Would you fight to cut down those factories polluting? Would you? Would you fight so that the air could remain fresh for everyone? Would you fight against poo air? Thank you very much for listening to me there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. If you have enjoyed our story, feel free to research The Great Stink of 1858 on the internet. Although if you're not old enough to go on your own, make sure there's a grown-up with you. You can also research my life, Professor Robert Angus Smith, and look into rivers of poo, stopping things, and also stopping the air poo as well, by seeing what you can do at home to fight air pollution safely. Now, if you have enjoyed this Histrionics History at Home video, remember to click like and share and subscribe and see what other videos are also coming up and have already been filmed by Histrionics. My name has been Robert Angus Smith. Thank you very much for listening. Fight the poo. Stay safe.